we're gonna have a little get together and let Raymond talk about his experiences and whatever he wishes. Go ahead.
It's a wide open field.
Well, I could start out by saying I had a low draft number. So boy, I got in early. 41 in February of 41. And I thought I was in for a year, you know, I was supposed to be a year of it. And heck, I didn't pay much attention to Army stuff. I was just having fun. Seeing different country, and down there in Kentucky when they'd work on the roads, they'd plow up a bunch of sassafras trees. You could smell that sassafras root all over the place. And then they decided to let anyone over 28 years old get out. They weren't drafting them anymore. But I was scheduled to go on maneuvers in Louisiana. And once they get those papers ready, why, that's how you go. So I went down in Louisiana and they got back and they fouled up the papers somehow and didn't get me out. But finally they were going to get me out, and it was on a Sunday in the barracks listening to the radio. And I was supposed to the next morning go down and get my physical to be discharged when the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. So I knew I wasn't going anywhere. And then I just never thought about, you know, getting into war and stuff like that. Just kind of dismissed that from my mind and just drifted along with things. Then we shipped out of there, went to Northern Ireland, spent a summer over there. Boy, the wind blowing in off that Irish Sea is cold. I wore a woolen shirt all summer. And one time this fellow was trying to seine fish, and I took off my shoes and socks and rolled up my pant legs and got out there in that water. Man, that was cold. That gravel just felt like I was walking on nails. But those people, they just accept that. At Newcastle, we were not too far from Newcastle, and that was a resort town. Went down there one time and they were out swimming in the surf. They had a swimming pool where the salt water came in and they let it warm up in there a little bit. And that wasn't too bad, I guess. But the kids that didn't have the money to get in a swimming pool, they'd swim out there in that Irish Sea. And boy, they'd be out there a while and they'd come in and they were so cold they were just blue. And they'd lay up against the seawall and look on in the sun. And pretty soon they'd turn pink and they'd go back out into the water again. Well, anyway, from there, we finally shipped over to England for a short time. And then we got ready to go to North Africa. We didn't know where we were going. They didn't tell us. They just loaded us on, you know, and we went over on that Obituary. That was a lake ship, really. It didn't go into the water too far, and it was just rock to beat all. We were on that a whole month, out at sea, you know. They were trying to fool the Germans. The Germans didn't know where we were going to land, so we just stayed out at sea a whole month. We ate fish and mutton. And I can still eat fish, I like fish, but mutton, that just hangs up and that's it.
I can believe that.
And we landed in Iran, and I was on the ship yet, our tank was on the ship. And that night, the German planes came over and dropped bombs. And boy, the air was just plumb full of treasures. Then I realized we were really in war. And by God, I started getting sick. I was almost to throw up. And I said, now get a hold of yourself. You're in this thing, there's no ethical way out. So do what's expected of you. Well, I got scared after that, but never got scared again. And then, you see, it was a made-up deal there in Africa. The French were supposed to just put out a token battle, and then we were going to take over. But hell, there were people who got killed in that. Seemed like a lot of foolishness. Several guys that I knew got killed in that. Well, then we goofed around for quite a while, and we weren't going anywhere, and finally we moved up the road a ways, bivouac area, and so all at once they came out, get ready to move out. And we thought, heck, we just go in another bivouac area. Well, we got to going down the road, and my God, we come on a German signal truck, had the German sign on it, you know. A couple of guys jumped out of that truck, and we started running for the low places. and there was a guy, my assistant driver. He had that cowl gun, and after it was all over with, I said, "My God, you didn't even shoot at them guys." And he started to cry. That guy didn't have an ounce of fight in him. So we moved on up to another ways, and it had rained for about 2 weeks, and there was a field there, the plowed field, and boy, that was soggy. We pulled down into that, and then we kind of got to the end of the field and looked back, and here the Germans had some Mark III tanks. They were going down the road where we'd come to get behind us, you know. And those Mark III's, boy, I'll tell you, we just slaughtered them guys. There wasn't a one of them got away from us. And we were feeling like we was really going somewhere. And then a Mark IV showed up. And every time he fired, somebody got it. They'd just go in one side of the tank and out the other. They had that darn 30, or that 88, it was an aircraft gun, and it fired well over 3,000 feet per second. That's what you need to go through armor.
Yeah.
Those 37s we had were a nice little gun. If you could get that tank from the side or the back, but you shoot him in the head on, they just bounce off like ping pong balls. In fact, I had a German soldier on television here a while back, and he said in that tank he felt safe. He just go into anything. We didn't have any guns that penetrated. They were heavy armor on the front, and boy, we got clobbered. Those that were still alive walked out. We had a couple of guys that was pretty badly hurt. One of them died on the way. Well, when they got shooting at us, those that was alive, we headed for the end of the field. There was a gully there. I remember heading for that gully. There was a little depression there, and we were crawling out of the depression, and this sergeant, my tank commander, he was ahead of me. And when he'd pull up his legs, he'd pop his butt up every time. And you could hear them machine gun balls just whistling over us. And I got to wondering what had happened if one of them would nick him a little bit. And then I got thinking, my God, maybe I was doing the same thing. And there wasn't any funny in it then. And we got into that gully, and we stayed in that gully until it got dark. And then we went out of that gully, come to a straw stack or haystack, and we rested a while. We carried a couple of guys, you know. And one of the fellas fell asleep there. And when we took off from the haystack, nobody checked to see if everybody was coming or not. We got down the road a ways and we found out, heck, we'd left him there asleep. And we heard the next morning, and we found this out later, the next morning he got awake and come down the road by himself. And by that time the Germans had cut that road off, and they yelled for him to halt, and he had a Tommy gun. And he always said, they'll never take me alive. So instead of dropping that gun and throwing up his arms, he come around with that gun, and boy, they cut him down. And then we left 2 guys at that farm place where we stayed for a few hours that night. One of them, that German tank had run over his legs to where he had to be carried almost. And the other one, he couldn't even walk. So we just left them 2 there to whatever happened to him, and we went on. And carrying those guys in that mud, that was hard work, I'm gonna tell you.
Yes.
And they got taken off, and I couldn't keep up with them. I had one leg that just didn't work right, and pretty soon I'm walking along by myself in the dark on that road, and I hear somebody in the road just ahead of me. So I said, "Who's there?" And it happened to be one of our sergeants. And see what the heck, Sergeant Elder. And so then he and I walked together there. Pretty soon we heard somebody walking off the side of the road out in the field. So we asked who was out there. Well, it was a guy that hadn't laced his shoes when we went to move, and he jumped out of the tank, and his shoes stuck in the mud, and he was sock-footed. And he was walking over there because that road was crushed rock, and that was nothing to walk on barefooted, you know. So that's the way we proceeded, and we come down the road a ways, and we found a Jeep, Army Jeep that had been left there, and we went snooping through it to see what we could find. We found a pair of shoes. And so that guy had shoes in. So the 3 of us went along, and it was kind of mountains there. We got in those mountains, and we were heading for a river, get across the river. Well, out of the mountains, then you had a flat plain for a ways, and then it was a river. And we stopped right there because that flat plain, that was wide open, you know. Anybody could see us out there. And we wondered what the heck we were going to do now. We looked off to our right, and quite off a distance, we saw a German sentry standing up there, and the Arab was standing beside him. And that German sentry, he gave us the old Heil Hitler, but we didn't answer back at all. We had a rifle with us, between us. The rest of us had pistols and had a rifle. And I thought of taking a shot at that guy, and I said, "My God, we take a shot at him, they're going to be on us like flies right now." So we didn't shoot at him. Well, about that time, a fog blew in. And boy, we went under cover that fog for the river. We got down there, and we ran on with the rest of the company. And the guys had just been sitting there resting. And the company commander said, "Well, fellas," he said, "my legs are tired too, but let's get going." So we went up the river a little ways, and there were some Arabs there. And they pointed to us where we could cross the river and waited. So we crossed there. Several guys drifted downstream a little bit and we got into a deeper water, and they dropped their rifles, you know, to swim out. And I know darn well that's what those Arabs were watching. I bet after we was gone, they'd dive in there and get those rifles. And this one guy out of St. Louis, he had that combat pants on, which was a heavy cloth with a lining on it. Well, when he went to get out of the river, that had filled full of water. And my God, he couldn't climb the bank. So I took my pocket knife and slit his pant legs open so get rid of that water so he could get up the bank. Now that was our first battle. We lost quite a few guys. We lost all of our tanks. Our tank the tank commander was firing a gun at those Mark IIIs. We were stuck in the mud. I had one cylinder missing, and he just wouldn't hack it, but I was sitting the cylinder missing. And I was just going to crawl out and start digging some mud out from under it so I'd get going. And here that Mark IV showed up. So boy, I got back in the tank. We thought it was safe in there, you know. And he fired once and hit the side of the tank a glancing blow. It just sounded like somebody hit the tank with a sledgehammer. And the tank commander said, "Why, he hit us." I said, "I know he did. Let him have it." So he fired a couple of more of them. God, they just go up there and hit that tank and bounce off. And then the guy fired again. And boy, that time, there was smoke and sparks flying all over inside that tank. And out of there we went. We hit the ground running. Crazy thing. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt at all.
Lucky.
In that tank.
Not in my tank, no. But in some tanks, everybody got killed.
Yeah. What division, tank division was you in?
The 13th Armored Regiment. Company A.
Yeah.
See, 13th Armored Regiment used to be 13th Cavalry. When I first got in, there were some of the guys still had their cavalry boots. I was kind of glad that they was rid of the horses. I'm like the guy says, when they say retreat, I don't want a horse getting in my way. But anyway, they got across the river and went over a ways, and there's an ambulance there. Pick us up. Now that was illegal, you know, to run an ambulance down there to pick up guys at a well. They're for sick people. But in war, everybody bends the rules, I'll tell you. I remember getting in an ambulance and looking out the back window, and I could see a German tank down there. And I got to counting how many guys there was between me and the back door of that ambulance. In case he fired, what chance would be to get at me?
They aren't supposed to fire at ambulances.
Huh?
They aren't supposed to fire at an ambulance.
No, but when they find out you're cheating, they'll blow an ambulance off the road too.
That's right.
And it isn't just the Americans that do it, everybody does it.
Yep.
They do what they can get by with.
Survival.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we got out of there and regrouped and got some replacements and went at it again. But that was our first battle. Oh, that was really a baptism, I mean to tell you.
Where were you at when you named the tank the Arapahoe?
He doesn't
I
remember.
can't remember.
You were
It
in
wasn't.
Africa,
It
you
wasn't
said.
Ireland.
You
It
said it
must
was Africa, I thought.
must have been in Algeria. See, we were in Algeria and Tunisia, where we did the fighting, and we were in Morocco, but that was just to take a bunch of prisoners over to Morocco place. They had us for doing that. And guarding those prisoners, there was nothing to do that, because those prisoners knew if they escaped from us, the French there would kill them. So they were real palsy with us.
How many countries did you serve in over there?
Well, it was Algeria and Tunisia and Morocco. That was North Africa.
Yeah.
Then after we finally got done there in North Africa, we sat a while and then they shipped us over to Italy. that time they had that Anzio beachhead there in Italy. And when we got over there, they had the air full of smoke all the time, so that the planes coming over couldn't see too well what they was dropping bombs on.
Well, how'd they keep it smoky?
Oh, they had smoke shells and smoke.
Oh,
They had deals. That's all part of warfare.
Yeah. How long then was you in Italy? Did you go clear on through?
no.
No, we went through Rome. We were supposed to get up to Pisa and Florence, but we run into enough resistance there, they were holding us back. And then they pulled back and regrouped. And when they regrouped, those of us that had points enough, got sent back again. And I wanted to see that Statue of Liberty. I didn't give a darn about that Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yes, I know the feeling.
Were you in the war too?
I was in the Korean War.
Korean, oh. That was a different one, wasn't it?
Altogether
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, the Germans, they had us outgunned. And they had tanks that would it's better too.
I had a friend that I worked with for a few years when I worked for the city of Cambridge that was there in Germany a short time before the war was over. And he told about, and he showed pictures, or had pictures of these haystacks that they had these jet airplanes hid in.
Oh yeah.
They had the jet airplanes, but they didn't have anybody to fly them yet. And so when the United States and whoever went through there at that time, they was able to capture all these airplanes jet airplanes that they had hidden under the haystacks.
Well, they had tanks hidden under haystacks too.
Oh, I'm sure.
We were one place and this guy, oh, let's see what the heck, Todd, Colonel Todd. He was a West Pointer, and if his mission was to take that hill, if he finally got it and only had one man on his feet yet, that was success.
That was a what?
That was success.
Oh, success.
That was a victory.
I had
He didn't
three
give a damn how
brothers
many
in the
people he
Second
lost,
World
but
War,
he'd
too.
take it.
Two of them
And-
was in the Army and one was a Air Force pilot. He hauled bombs.
This Todd was ready to just
Where was
move in. And by golly,
Where were you?
some guy
Where'd you live?
bigger than he was
Okay.
came in there and said,
I was just a
maybe you
little
better do a little reconnaissance first.
didn't remember my
So they
brothers.
shot at a few of them haystacks, and those darn haystacks began to move. That was reconnaissance by
That
fire.
would be
If you
exciting.
weren't sure, and there was some kind of cover off here, he'd cut loose of that machine gun and start shooting at it. And if there was somebody in there, they'd answer it. But if you just kept creeping up on them, pretty soon you get in range and they nail you.
Yeah.
That's all there was to it.
Moving haystack.
They had all kinds of tricks. Pillboxes, everything.
Those mines, they had a mine they referred to as a teller mine or plate mine, That was for vehicles. And just one of them would break a track on a tank. But that could be fixed pretty quick. So they'd go to work and pile them about 3 deep. And boy, I'll tell you, you hit one of them, whoever was sitting over on that side of the tank would get something, lose his feet or something. We had this one guy, an Italian, see, James Caruso. And hit one of them, and he lost both of his legs, both of his lower legs. And so a week or so later, the company commander went over to see him in the hospital and told him how sorry he felt about him. And he said, "Oh, I think I'm lucky. Some people get killed."
Well,
That was quite an attitude, I thought.
yeah,
I often wondered, you know, there were guys that got hit, not too awful bad, and they went into shock, and that shock killed them more than the wound did. And I often wondered if I got pretty badly hurt, would I take it or would I pass out?
That's something the good Lord's the only one who could answer.
that's true.
Well, I'm glad I didn't have to find out.
That's right.
I never got a scratch out of it.
Well, you're lucky.
People would ask me, "You got a Purple Heart, didn't you?" And I said, "No. The only blood I shed was when I cut my hand on a sea ration can. They wouldn't give me a Purple Heart for that."
Well, I still don't see how you could be in there as long as you were and never got a wound.
Well,
The good Lord was with
Yeah,
him.
his mission on the earth wasn't
Complete, yeah.
complete yet. That's
Yeah.
what I keep telling him.
That-
I don't know what I've done since then to warrant that. It's just the luck of the draw.
You know, I always said that I had a lot of people to aggravate yet. That's why I was sticking around.
Oh, there you go, that's so good.
That's why I'm here too.
Well, my one
You
brother
got a
got
good
shot up so
thought there.
bad in the Second World War, and they just sewed him up on the inside. He got machine gun bullets in him. Well, 3 went through, and they sent him back on a ship, and we don't know, it was just, the good Lord brought him home, because ordinarily he wouldn't have lived through all that. He laid out on the ground for about a month because they thought that he would die, and then they finally moved him, sent him home.
Well, with that many people getting hit, and that many people out there, some of them are gonna get by real good.
Yes, and some aren't, some are gonna be and see, he was a medic, and they weren't supposed to shoot medics because they helped both sides, but that's the reason they took that great big red cross off of their arms, is because they figured if they shot them, they got that many more dead.
Well, I always
Brother
said
was that.
you'd be better
Earl.
off to cripple a guy real bad. Would be better than killing him. Because if he's crippled, the medic's got to take care of him. That ties up more people. If you kill him, you just bury him and that's it.
See, all the scar tissue from his stomach being shot in it come up, and that's the reason he had heart problems. That the scar tissue grew around his heart, and gave him heart problems.
Well, that was the first tank I lost. And then the second one was a medium tank. See, that first tank, that was a light tank. We actually had light tanks. Then after a while, they decided they should have one company of mediums with each company of light tanks. Or have one in a battalion. They should have one battalion. One company of mediums in a battalion. And our company was chosen for that. Well, we got those M3 mediums. If you knew anything about them.
I
That's
don't.
the one that stands up there like a hay barn,
Yeah.
Well, we lost a bunch of them, so they got the M4 medium. That M3 had a 37 millimeter up in the turret, and then they had a short barrel 75 on the side here, which was just an artillery piece. And then when we got rid of them, we got to the M4 medium, and that had a 75 in the turret, But it still didn't have the velocity we needed. They had armor piercing, but it was just a piece of steel that they shot out there. but it wasn't enough velocity. I got a book here that tells about some of the German guns they had. My God, that 88, you know, it was well over 3,000 feet per second. And about 2,100 is all you get out of that 75. They finally smartened up that they had to have better guns. We had a guy come over there one time and we told him, God, get us something with a gun. Even if it's on a truck, but get a gun. Them darn tanks, you know, well, the tank was like cavalry. They were supposed to get into infantry and cut the heck out of the infantry. The Germans, they didn't like to battle tank against tank. If you could get them from the side, you could knock them out. Or get them from the back. But hell, they didn't intend for you to ever see their back. But some of those German prisoners, I'd tell them that I was German American, Deutsch American. And they'd look at me and just say, Deutsch. I think Hitler actually had those people believing that anybody who was of German descent would just come over to them.
Probably.
And so this one guy, I asked him one time, since you can't hold Africa, what makes you think you can control Europe? Or is Adolf going to have to give up his weird dream? And when I called the Fuhrer Adolf, hell, they just winced like I'd slapped him in the face.
Hey.
He was just a demigod to them.
Really had them brainwashed.
Oh yeah.
Well, that comes out in your TV series that you watch.
Yep.
They had them Germans really pumped up, you know. They thought they were the super race.
Yep.
And boy, they were good, you know. They were seasoned warriors and we were recruits. We had not too damn much to learn. Out in Fort Knox, we had OP-6. That's where we do a lot of this maneuvering and playing around. Cripe, when we went down into Louisiana, we were short-handed. And the tank I was in, it was just me and a Jew boy out in New York in that tank. Boy, they'd say, well, that tank got knocked out. That'd be us. We'd been knocked out. So, boy, we'd just button things up and head for the nearest grocery store or anything we could find. And we had a lieutenant in the company that didn't like Jews. So when we'd have an inspection, well, and then we had another lieutenant that I'd argue with one time. That was the wrong thing to do. He was trying to tell me I had some rust on my pistol. And I said, well, that's hardly rust. He said, I take some crocus cloth. And I said, yeah, you take crocus cloth and you rub that blue off that gun, and then it will rust. Well, I shouldn't have said that. So, when it come inspection, if we saw this guy that didn't like Jews coming, the Jew would disappear and I'd stand at the tank. And we'd get past real good. And if the other guy was coming, there's one that didn't like me, I would disappear and a Jew would stand there and we'd pass.
Now it all figured out.
What they didn't think of, huh?
Well, this second tank we lost, that was a M4 medium. And the Germans were just about whipped out of Africa. And we were down on Cape Bon, and we were supposed to go down the Cutter Road highway to stop them from any more of them escaping. And there were several light tanks, and then me and us in that medium. We had a 5-man crew in the medium. And going along, and we got out into an open place. It was sandy, and the Germans started shooting at us. And and our sand was just popping up all around us, you know. And those light tanks, man, they just took off like a bunch of rabbits. With that old medium and that sand, I had it down in low gear, and I was afraid if I kicked the clutch and try to shift gears, it'd probably stop. And you don't want to stop when you're getting shot at. And we were going along, and I heard wham, I heard something hit it. And I looked around, and everything was still moving. So I just held the throttle to the floor, and I looked around again, and behind the assistant driver, there was just a white flame come up. And I knew darn well what had happened. That thing had gotten into the ammunition there, and that was that powder burning. And boy, when I saw that, I just, out of there I went, and the other members of the crew had already got out.
Why don't you come sit
And,
here so you can look back?
That thing was in gear. He's down in the lowest gear, you know, and after I jumped out, it kept going into this sand dune and started up this sand dune. Of course, that killed it. And he'd sit there burning. And we were around there laying on the sand. They shooting some mortar shells in there. And one of them mortar shells, this Radke and I were laying there right side by side. And one of them mortar shells lit over here, and it sliced him across the butt and put another one through his helmet and just stuck in the skin on top of his head. He took his helmet off and pulled out of his, and I was kidding him. I said, I'm glad you were a good sized man. I said, if you hadn't have been there, I'd have probably got there. But it was in sand. And when they land in sand, they go in pretty deep when they explode, and it comes up in cone like. And you can be right close to them without getting hurt if you're laying flat on the ground. But anyway, out of that, hitting that tank, this Radke, he had a spot that big on his back that was burned. It didn't show a sign of burn on his clothes at all, but there was on his back. And it took a couple of weeks for that to heal up.
Hmm.
He was never taken off duty, he kept on going, you know.
Needed all the help they could get.
Oh yeah. Well, there were some guys, you know, would chicken out over a little thing, and I guess we knew what they think of you when you do that.
Yep.
Well, this one sergeant that I had, that was a tank commander, there at Regis Albab, that first battle we had. There was 3 guys out of Boston. They always were together. Real pally. And there at Regis Albab, 2 of them got killed. And this guy wasn't worth a damn after that. Once we got into the medium tank, and we was up, and he was still tank commander, and we were being shot at and shooting back. And my assistant driver told me afterward, he said, you know, when we was getting shot at there, he said, I looked back to see what he was doing, shooting. And he said, my God, he was down on his knees praying. You know, praying's all right, but don't do it when you're getting shot at.
That's right.
You're a sitting duck. And he said, we got to get rid of that damn fool. He said, he'll get us killed. Well, he didn't know how that was going to happen. But shortly after that, we got into another damn fight like that, and it calmed down, and all the tank commanders got out and got together to decide what to do, and he refused to get back in the tank. How that man escaped being court-martialed is beyond me. They busted him clear down to Buck Private and put him over in headquarters. And he was just a gopher after that.
Probably saved a lot of lives by doing that.
Well, anyway, I couldn't understand why he wasn't court-martialed. I didn't like the guy too well anyway, but hell, he was my tank commander, so I had to put up with him, you know.
supposed to have been smarter than you.
Well,
If you
he got the stripes, you know.
Yep.
He got the stripes. But he got a package of cookies one time from home. And each of us in the crew got one cookie out of that. And the rest of them he kind of stashed away, and you see him nibbling away at them every once in a while. You know,
That don't work.
that's no good.
Well, I sent Dan a big box of cookies. I made cookies for 2-3 days, and he got them over there in Saudi Arabia, and he gave all of his guys cookies, but yeah, he put them in his foot locker and locked it, because he knew the guys would eat them all up when he was out. And then each night he'd get out cookies and let them have cookies, and he'd eat cookies. But he kept them locked up when he wasn't around.
I got a big box. My sister sent me a big box of cookies. It was all wrapped in tin foil, and that any of the cookies that had fruit into it was just as moist and nice, just like they'd baked the day before.
Mhm.
And it was wrapped in tight in tin foil. And this box of cookies was probably a good foot square, and it was packed. And I was a motor sergeant. I was over the motor pool, and we wasn't supposed to have coffee at the motor pool. We were supposed to go a half mile up the road to get coffee. But some of us guys decided sure it'd be nice to have some coffee down at the shop, so I made a coffee pot out of a coffee can that they had at the mess hall and let me have.
Yeah.
And we had coffee down at the shop till the colonel caught us. We were sitting there one morning at 10 o'clock having our coffee, you know, and the colonel walked in the door. Nobody had any ideas anywhere near. He said, "I smell coffee. What could you do?" I said, "Yes, sir, you do.
Offer him a cup.
Would you like a cup?" So one of the guys got the canteen cup out and washed it up and poured him some coffee, and I said, "Would you like a homemade cookie to go with that?" "Why, sure," he said. So I pulled out the box of cookies from out from underneath the desk where I had them hid, and we sat there and drank coffee and eat cookies. From then on, we had coffee at the shop all the time.
When I was stationed down in Oklahoma, we did. I was in the medics when I got back. They put me in the medics, and I'd go out with the first aid tent, because once you were out in the field, you know, it wasn't all spit and polish. As long as you was out there, you had to salute everybody and keep your shoes shined and all that. And I liked it out in the field. And so we'd have to go into camp and get the mail. Take mail in and bring mail out. So this one guy, he and I would go in, and then we'd go over to Cook's and see what we could find over there. Get some bacon and eggs. And there was a gal there that was in charge of that. Her name was Lottie. I don't know what her last name was. But you know, she was pretty careful about what she let us have. And so this guy and I, we went over to the canteen and we bought a box of chocolates. Good sized box of chocolates. And gave to her, you know. And boy, after that, if there wasn't any brass around, that supply room was ours.
Yes.
That's a smart move.
Yes.
Well, did you share with the rest of them then out in the,
Well, with the first aid tent,
yeah?
we was almost a doctor, you know, in there. And this one doctor we had, a Jew boy, out of back east somewhere, and he was a sociable sort of a guy to get along with. My gosh, he'd even have us bring out some beer. And then we had one of them there, he was too military. God damn, you almost had to snap to with him around.
He probably didn't like beer.
Huh?
He probably didn't like beer.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
Yeah, but there are some of them, you know, they think.
Well, a person can learn a lot. Everything you go through over there is great experience. But there
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
enough money in the world to ever put you through it again if you can get out of it.
I
Oh,
tell people
no.
$1 million worth of experience, but I wouldn't give a dime for any more of it.
That's right.
That's the reason my son Dan got out of the military. He was in the Marine Corps. He was in there for 13 years. But after he was in Desert Storm, why, when he come back, he said, I fulfilled my duty to my country. He always wanted to be a highway patrolman, and that's what he is.
Oh, good for him. I'm glad he got back so he could do it.
Yeah, he did. But he said, I fulfilled my obligation to my country, so.
If you want to study human nature, just sign up for the Army. You meet all kinds.
That's
Oh,
right.
you do that in any branch. Meet all kinds.
Yeah, but in the Army, you know, you live and eat and sleep with those guys, and pretty soon there's no secrets anymore. They unload everything.
Well, sure.
My biggest problem was in the job that I had when I was overseas there. They put me in the motor pool right away, and I was in the motor pool, and the guy that was over that was in the vehicle, jeeps and trucks, and then the guy that was over the heavy equipment, he got killed, and they put me in on that. But I had both motor pools. I had that for 6 months while I was over there before I rotated home. Both motor pools, and it every time I get in a shipment of new recruits from back east, and I probably shouldn't say this, but it's the way it happened. Every time I got in a crew of men from back on the East Coast, you just as well close the door because you was never going to get nothing done. And I'd warn them 3 times. Third time they went to the line company. I was in the headquarters. And when I left there, all of my men, 68 men, was from the Midwest. And I had a motor pool. A good one.
Did you run into that from the east there when you was in boot camp,
Eastern
bud?
California.
Huh?
And California
Yeah.
was just as bad.
California
Yeah,
too.
it was.
We had the worst duds anywhere that come from California. It was terrible.
Well, I don't know if we had any, but well, we had one guy from California, I did. He was quite a
Where's the
promoter.
wind blowing?
Yeah, it's
Which one?
flowing again.
It's gotta blow, if you hear it in this house, it's gotta be blowing.
Yeah, but those guys out of them eastern cities, they just think different than we do.
You say, you're right.
Yeah, it's just like a different country almost,
Yeah.
back east.
Well, the most of them has no idea. They're out of the big cities and stuff. They don't know what anything, even driving a vehicle. They don't know how to do that because they have no chance or
experience.
anything, and you can't teach them.
I couldn't believe that when I first got in, how many guys there were that had never driven a car.
Yeah.
They said, well, in town, the car is just dead weight.
Yeah,
They said, you've got to
pay
have
to
a
park or
garage where you can
anything.
park it.
Yeah.
They said, you'd get
So
there a
they
lot
ride
quicker taking a
buses.
streetcar or a
Yeah,
bus.
streetcar.
That kid, one kid we had from California, he had never driven. So when we got the motor pool and he was sent down there, they tried to teach him how to drive a Jeep. And the motor sergeant kept saying, he said, he's impossible. Well, we had an officer that, a lieutenant, and he was from back east. He'd all teach him how to drive.
Yeah.
A kid drove through the shop wall with him in the Jeep, and that was the end of that. He was sent to a train duty. He never drove again.
We had one colored guy. He was our supply, hauled our supplies in every day, you know, went down to the depot and picked them up and brought them back to the company area. This was when we were stationed in the Punch Bowl there in Korea. And he hated to have a vehicle that didn't just shine and everything had to be right up to snuff. He bought shoe polish and polished his truck. Every time he'd come off in the summertime, when the stream was running, every time he'd come back off and run, he had it down there and he worsted every inch of that truck off. It was ready to go any time. Till the colonel one day said, boy, he said, you sure got a nice mirror there, he said, for somebody to blow off in the road. That stopped it. He decided maybe he better not have that polished.
Well, we always had to polish the tanks and shine them down, you know, here. When we got over there where the shooting's going on, boy, they said wet them and then throw dirt on them.
Yeah.
Camouflage them.
Yes, that's right.
I always wondered in the movies, you know, everybody has hand grenades to throw
Yeah.
at people, and it looks like it works so well because it always blows up about 3 guys. But I wondered if that was real life. Did you actually have a lot of hand grenades that you carried around with you?
After I got out of basic training, I never touched a hand grenade. I never seen a hand grenade after I got out of basic training.
Oh, really?
Did you have them in the tank?
We had a few hand grenades, but tankers aren't supposed to use hand grenades.
No, they got.
Well, we had
guns.
one officer. I wasn't in on that, but I read it in one of the books that he went to call the artillery in on a place that was giving him trouble, and he got up on a tank and said, "Open up." He said, "I want your radio." And they wouldn't open up, and he said, "By God, you open this tank, or you're going to get a hand grenade in there." They opened the tank, and then he took that radio and directed the artillery where to lay the barrage. But some guys, they just wanted to button up the tank, and that was, you can't do that. Yeah, one time we went out, and it was kind of a canyon-like. We were getting artillery fire, so we pulled kind of over in them banks, and we thought that way the artillery wouldn't see us. But the spotter evidently, he could see us. The spotter would call in, you know, and tell them where to lay them. And the guys got out of the tank, the commanders got out of the tank and got together, everybody deciding what to do. And this recruit, we'd gotten him into the company, and he was quoting little things from the Bible and stuff like that, you know. And so they put him in as my assistant driver. And we're sitting there, and they started shelling, and so he reached it, told the guy up in the turret, he said, "Why don't you close that hatch?" He said, "I'm going to leave that hatch open in case the sergeant wants in there in a hurry." And a couple of times, and then a shell hit up on that bank, and a piece of sod about that big fell right down through in that open turret, you know. And this religious guy, he said, "No, God damn it, would you close that hatch?" What he didn't realize, if we'd have got a direct hit, it wouldn't have mattered whether that hatch was open or closed. It'd make you kind of nervous though when they were throwing them at you and landing around you.
Yes, you bet.
But if you were sitting somewhere and they shot at you and overshot you, and then the next one falls short, boy, that was the time to move, because they knew that you were right in between them two.
Could you move in a hurry?
Yeah, you better crank up and go. One time we were going by a lake down there, and there was a ravine that came down to the lake. And the way we stopped, you know, you just in a column and then stop, and I'd stopped right that ravine in line of that ravine, and it was sandy, and they had paddle grousers they called them that you put on. It was made your track a little bit wider, you know, and it could walk on sand a little better. And they'd work loose, and I'd gotten out of the tank and was tightening them up, and the rest of them got out of the tank, got in with them other guys, and while I'm tightening them things up, by God, there was a shell that come down that ravine and hit the ground and ricocheted right on past. And I thought, God, I wonder if that was meant for me. And I got up in that tank and started up, you know, to move it, you know, get it out of line of that ravine. And while I was starting it and moving it, he fired twice more, and they didn't hit the ground. They just zipped on by. I'll tell you, I was shaking like a leaf in the wind when that was over. They just misjudged the distance. One thing about those Germans, if they were dug in somewhere, they knew just how far it was to this and that and everything. And if you got in there, by God, they'd nail you. But once we got them running, this Kentucky windage didn't mean much to them.
Oh, yeah?
And they couldn't hit a moving vehicle very easy either. One time we had run a whole battalion of vehicles through an open place where they were shooting at them, and they hit one out of the whole bunch.
Not too good a shot, so.
Well, they were no good on moving so that's all right. God, when we were in Ireland, they took us out, and they had a tank silhouette on a little railway, you know, that they'd run along there, and then you shoot at that. So you get used to shooting at something on the move. God, it was getting supper time. We were still out there. And so we decided, well, the way to get to supper is get rid of that damn target. So there was an open place where you could see the little carrier on the track. And so they'd wait till they got out there and shoot that carrier instead of shooting at the cinema. And hit that darn carrier, and by golly, in about 15 minutes, they had going again. So, we hit it again. That time they said, no, we'll have to wait till tomorrow. So it's going to take too long to fix it. Thank God, we wanted to go to supper.
Have to miss 2 meals if they waited too long, huh? Supper and breakfast.
Well, that silhouette, you know, would go along there, but there was places where the ground, you could see that car, and by God, that's what we were shooting at.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Well,
Fair and love and war.
Yeah.
Huh?
All's fair in love and war.
That's right.
And they were fighting for their stomach.
And that's what had to carry you through.
That's right. That's what kept you going.
that was Napoleon, wasn't it, that said, an army marches on its stomach.
I wonder what kind of K rations you had.
Back in those days, I don't know what they ate. We had C rations most of the time. We got together with some British soldiers, and they were eating bully beef and, let's see, they called bully beef and biscuits. It was corned beef and hardtack crackers. That was their biscuits. And we traded with them. They were damn tired of what they were eating. We were getting tired of what we were eating.
What were you eating?
Sea
We were eating
rations.
C rations.
Oh, sea rations.
Them blimies, they thought those C rations were pretty good.
Okay, what was in?
That's what I was saying.
What is in a sea ration? What is?
You know, we
Well-
got a chocolate bar.
No,
Don't you have chocolate bars in yours?
no, not with C rations. When we had K rations, they had some chocolate bars.
Maybe we did have K
And
rations.
in the C ration, you had three choices. You had meat and beans, and you had meat and vegetable stew, and you had hash, meat and hash. Now meat and hash, that was just meat and potatoes.
Mhm.
And the meat and vegetable stew, that wasn't bad at all, but the meat and beans was the one that people liked the best, if they had choice.
Okay, was that what, like during Desert Storm, they took in then too, would be sea rations? Because
I
they
don't-
were kinda like
They
that.
probably don't have sea rations anymore.
They probably had K rations.
Well, they were
And
like
they
that.
got another now too, and I.
Yeah, it's altogether different.
Yeah, I gotta ask Dan, cause he brought,
I've got some over
My
at the house.
son
My
brought
stepson
some
brought
too.
brought me
but
some
he
of
was
them
in
in a square
California and
box.
he took them back.
I haven't opened it up to see what
Took
was
'em back
into it.
when he went home,
Well, you should do that.
but
But the K ration, it got a little package of, what was it, 5 cigarettes in it, and a candy bar, and then you either had corned beef and hash, or sausage, or something like that in there.
I don't know. I don't.
Well, that's all been changed. At one time, we had British rations. And that British rations, they had a canned stuff in there. They called it haircut oxtail stew. And that stuff was cooked so that the bones, you could eat the bones just like eating salmon bones.
mhm.
And I often wonder what happened to the rest of the ox. Hell, we ate tails.
No.
My mom used to make oxtail soup. And that was, I always thought that was good. when I
Well,
was-
Mary goes to work and makes oxtail stew, but she don't boil it till the darn till the bones fall apart.
Well, no.
You can't.
Pressure cook 'em, you can get the bone to fall apart. If you-
Well, that's evidently
Pressure
what they
cooker
did on them,
forever.
because when
Well,
you
you
ate,
gotta, longer than you want it, longer than it takes to cook the meat if you want the bones to.
That's right.
But I never cook the bone, I don't cook the meat that long.
Oh, I don't either, but I
but
said,
them bones in that stew, you just eat them like salmon bones.
Yeah.
I don't even eat salmon bones.
I don't either.
I take them out.
Mhm.
Gosh, that's good for you. That puts
I know.
calcium in your system.
I know that's what everybody tells me. But I don't like that old black stuff and the
She
skin
looks
and
at-
the fat.
I don't
I
either.
just
I'll
opened
take
up a can of salmon. I eat it. It don't matter.
He just dumps it in the milk and eats the whole thing.
Mary won't eat sardines. She says they don't clean them good enough.
I think that's
But
why
hell, it's
I
all
don't.
cooked together, so what?
You know, I used to love oysters when I was little, and then somebody when I was little told me about oysters, and I wouldn't touch them for years. And then
I
when I
don't
got
touch 'em.
older, I'll eat them again.
I still don't care for them.
I'll eat them, but
Do you eat raw oysters?
no, I don't want any
I don't eat that.
fish raw. You can get terribly sick on that.
Mhm. Sushi.
Oh, not me. You won't catch me eating sushi.
Down there in
That's
Texas,
raw fish.
we used to go to the oyster bars, and
I like
one
smoked
couple we took there one time, he ordered raw oysters. And you know, these snotty damn things, you just,
Mhm.
No, it's blah.
after a hitch in the army though, you can watch anything.
That's right.
Except rice.
I still have trouble with rice. I had rice 3 times a day when I was
Oh.
over there, and dried fish. Man,
I like rice.
I like rice,
Eaten a lot of rice, but I
natural
like
brown rice.
I'm getting where I can eat just a little of it without just making me sick. But
If they mix it with something else, can you eat it?
I haven't tried that.
Oh, and like glorified rice or rice pudding,
I like rice pudding,
yeah. Cause
but I
there you
cannot
don't
eat
have,
just straight rice.
But
Yeah.
I like brown rice too.
They-
That's my favorite.
yeah, I
They
would
cook
prefer
that in
brown
them
rice,
big
but
old
any of your
iron
brown
pots and stand up
or
there and stir
pasta
them
or
with the
whatever
ham
is
shell,
better for you.
and
And I use
it didn't
brown
matter what
pasta
went in
quite a
there,
bit. I
you could
do
eat it, you know.
whole wheat.
Yeah.
But I think I could eat all kinds of vegetables better than I could all kinds of meat. Is that
Where was
meat?
you stationed at?
Rotten sometimes.
They had a program on television the other day about roadkill.
Oh,
It was this restaurant, they had a roadkill.
well, at the K-store one year, we made up a menu with roadkill.
I
It was
told you.
stuff and till our boss came down and saw it up there, and wow, we got in trouble. We had it pasted on the hot deli. It said we had roadkill and what you could get and what a price was. Shoo, he was upset. I said, man, you can't even take a joke.
Well, this was no joke. They just sat right
Yeah,
there.
they
They
did.
just showed it how they prepared it
Oh my
and how
God.
they cooked
Oh,
it.
yeah.
How would they do a skunk?
Huh?
How'd they do a skunk?
They
I
didn't
don't
have
imagine
that.
they
didn't
used
have that.
skunk.
Shoot, bud, we should have watched
But
that
they used
because we're
possum-
always saying we're gonna
Possum
pick
and
up
coon and
roadkill.
groundhogs
They had groundhogs and squirrel,
and deer.
rabbit, deer,
There's quite a few deer did it.
possum.
Yeah, deer.
Why, coon would have to be good.
Probably be even better if you mix it with possum. Huh?
Probably.
Well, they had
Coon's awful greasy and so's possum.
what they have with the deer. Do you remember? Some of them had three meats, three different meats, you know. But I can't remember any combination anymore.
We run some skunks through the chopper this year, and I don't know whether the cows will like them or not, but they got
You run through the chopper. Oh my.
They went clear through too, I'll guarantee.
Boy, you don't want to stop, do you? You want to keep it going?
Well, you don't stop. You don't even know it. All you can tell is smell it. And when the
How'd
boys
that-
come back with the truck and they say your load is stunk, well, you know it's in there.
How did you happen to do that?
That's
Well,
not
they
hard to
were
do.
there when he was
That down
chopping.
feed, how can they
Oh,
get
down
away?
feed. Oh, okay.
I had some wheat that got hail once, and then it grew up in weeds. And that was one thing I liked about a one-way. If you couldn't get anything else to work, get in there with a one-way. It'd waller under somehow. And I had the one-way that field, and there was two skunks in there. I never saw them, but I smelled them.
I used to run through the swather all the time. Get down that hay and they couldn't get out of there, and you run through the swather and you hoped you didn't plug up, because you wanted to keep that
Oh, if they
going just
plug
as long as you could to get that washed out.
Let's see, Carl used to say he run coons through the swather. He said, boy, they'd come out of there just flattened out.
I want to run one coon through. Man, I thought the old swather were, and I thought, uh-oh. But the coon was big enough that I could see it moving in the hay, and I could stop. But the skunk, you didn't know they was there.
A lot of times they just completely stop too. I mean, they won't move. You don't see them. Just like a pheasant, you know.
Yeah.
A pheasant goes through them things and you never know it.
Oh, in Algeria, we'd buy peanuts. But they weren't roasted peanuts, they were raw peanuts. So I got one of them near gallon cans, and put a wire through it, you know, and fix it so I could turn it. Then I had to have a wire to trip it so it would tumble, instead of just lying around and roast those peanuts, you know. And then you'd open it up every once in a while and get one out of there, see they're about done. When you take them peanuts out of there, break it open, toss that peanut in your mouth. Well, the shell didn't feel hot, but boy, that peanut was hot. Gee.
We
Peanuts
kind of
good.
found that out, didn't we? This
Yeah, I
last
raised some
year?
peanuts a year ago, and it took a long time to figure out how long to roast them and everything, so as to make them halfway decent to eat.
Yeah.
Well, we tried to two once on the farm, but I forget where we went, but anyway, we had an elderly couple come out, or middle-aged couple come out and stay while we were gone. And he thought they were weeds, so he hoed them all off.
That was mighty nice of him.
Then we bought dates and figs. And my gosh, those dates, a lot of them had worms in them.
Oh yeah?
Stole a crate of figs off of a train and passing them out, you know, and see, have a guy be standing there eating them figs and say, how are the figs?
You
Oh,
mean,
pretty good.
I thought
Have
you
you
said,
found any worms yet?
I thought you said dates.
Start breaking open, throwing away, break them open. But those Arabs, they'd eat worms and all, it just didn't bother them a bit.
Well, that's protein, good grief. Well,
Are you through with that? Would you guys like to have a cup
I
of
just had
coffee
to
and a
get up,
cookie?
my leg's going to sleep.
Well, your leg's going to sleep.
Oh, maybe I can think up a few more.
I
Oh,
thought,
I know you can, you haven't told me your all of it yet.
I'm listening.
It's still turned on,
Oh, yes. Yeah, we got some time left.
cause I didn't know if it was or not. That's what you were wondering, wasn't it, if we still had the camera moving?
Yeah, you just go ahead with any of the stories you can think of.
Well, I'll try to think up some more. Oh,
You never
When-
did
when
tell,
we-
you never did tell how come that tank you wanted to show him.
oh, yeah, show him the picture of that tank.
That Gwen made me spend all afternoon looking for.
that's the one they named the Arapahoe, right?
Can you get a picture of it?
Is that right,
Can you see it?
Raymond?
Yeah.
You can't take a picture of that.
Well, you probably can.
This is the tank that Raymond was in that they named Arapahoe.
Yeah.
Uh,
See
where-
Arapahoe on there?
I don't happen to see it. Yeah, I see it on the side there, but I don't think I can get it on the film.
No, probably, it don't show up too good. You look at it with a magnifying glass and you can see it a little
But
bit.
it's in there, it's just right there by the guy's left shoulder standing up on this picture.
And that's me standing there.
That's you standing there. Okay,
And I
Raymond.
don't know who's in the turret.
Now, was that, what tank was that?
It's kind of amazing how
That
much
was
the
that
pictures
M3 light.
show up in
The
that,
M3 light,
on
okay.
that camera,
Or
yeah.
M4.
Yeah.
Even over on
M4
a
light.
table
M4,
or
okay.
anything, if it
Yeah.
just zooms in on it.
M4 light.
Yeah, I had,
And then we finally ended up
my
with the
niece took
M5
pictures
and
of
M5
my mom
A1
and dad
light.
and stuff, pictures, and
See,
made
those
pictures off of it. It was really
M5s,
good.
they had two Cadillac motors in them
These cameras you have anymore,
and
they're
an automatic transmission.
awesome.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only thing was reverse gear. You had to slow them motors down under 1,000 revolutions to get it into reverse.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of horsepower.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those two Cadillac motors. When you had them Cadillac motors, you could sit there with the motors idling, and they would idle so quiet you could hear shells coming in. With the old air code, you never knew you were being shelled till you saw the ground erupt around you. One time, they had a little fan right up between the driver and assistant driver, and we were stopped somewhere, and the assistant driver turned that fan on, and I heard it wind up, and my God, that sounded just like a big shell coming in, and kept getting louder. And I'll tell you, I was getting nervous, and he was getting nervous because he thought I saw something he didn't see.
But it wasn't something coming in.
Oh no, it was the sound of that
What's
fan.
that?
Sound of that fan. One time we were crossing a bridge, and the assistant driver, I thought he was going to crawl across the transmission and get in my lap. I said, "What's the matter with you?" He said, "Didn't you see that mine?" He thought I was going to hit that mine.
But that would make you jumpy.
We got one lieutenant in, named Wayno, Ted Wayno, and he was just a second lieutenant when he came to us. And boy, he was just a hustler, you know, and we figured he was just a blowhard, you know. And by golly, we got up into grapevines there in Italy, and the one tank got in a water hole and got stuck. So this Wayno was a maintenance officer, and he took a guy by the name of Latrimore, French Canadian, and another guy, and they went to take a look at that tank to see what it'd take to pull it out of there. And when they got to the tank, well, what they didn't know, the Germans had captured that crew. And they were out in front of the tank, going through the musette bags and stuff, looking for cigarettes and stuff. And they, in their grapevines, and they just come up to the tank and walked around in there. They were face to face with little Germans. And boy, they pulled their pistols and started shooting and backing up into the grapevines, and the Germans started backing the other way and shooting back at them. Anyway, when this Latrimore, when he got back to the company again, he was just shaking, you know. And he was a chain smoker. And he went to light a cigarette, and he had to lean up against the tank to quiet him down enough so he could light that cigarette. And we were all laughing. He said, "Laugh, laugh, you damn fools. I wish you'd have been there." But when he came back, he said, "Say," he said, "you know that goddamn Wayno, he's got guts." There was a house right close by, and that Wayno said maybe they're in that house. He said, "I think we can take them." Well, hell, all they had was pistols and a few hand grenades. When they were shooting at each other and backing up, Wayno went to work and threw a hand grenade at them, and here come one of them potato mashers back again. And he said, "They never hit us." And he said, "As much as I know, we never hit them either." But it sure scared him.
That was time to get scared.
Oh yeah. God, just coming around face to face, they thought the crew was out there in front of the tank.
Yeah.
They knew there was somebody there. And hell, here they were right face to face with those Germans. Oh, there's crazy things happen.
Oh, yes. Yes.
When Italy was still in the war, I was reading about Brits one time. They were stuck with a car, and there was some soldiers along the road, and it was after dark. They couldn't see them, or they knew they were there, but they couldn't pick them out. And so, by God, they went to work and pushed them guys out. They came and helped push them out of there. And they got out of there, and by God, then they realized those were Italians. They weren't Americans or British. They were Italians. Italians got pushed that British car out of the mud hole. When we were garden prisoners, went into Morocco, we'd want to dig a latrine trench or something like that, you know. And if you get Germans, and you point out to them what you wanted, they'd get right in there and dig. But those Italians, you'd have a hell of a time getting a day's work out of them.
Still do.
But those Germans, they'd follow orders. No fooling around.
I drove a team of horses on a corn picking wagon, where they had the German prisoners from down here at Atlanta,
Yeah.
picking corn. They'd have 3 to the wagon,
Yeah.
and they'd take 3 rows, and I drove the team of the wagon while they was picking. And them guys were just as nice as they could be. They was so tickled to get out there and do something like that, and none of them could talk English that I was ever around, you know. They might have been calling me all kinds of names, I don't know.
Well, I'd heard from the people that had them, and some people, you know, when it was cold, they'd invite them into the house to eat their lunch.
Yeah.
And they said, boy, if you did that, they'd do a better job of picking corn.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, at that time, there was quite a lot of around Cambridge there, my granddad had them, and they was several different ones that had them picking corn for them, and they always had a heated place for them to go at noon to go eat, you
Yeah.
know, and they give them different things, you know, that was cooked. The women would cook for them, you know, and them guys they was all real nice. I guess they was thinking, yeah, that's what we always thought it was anyway. But they was, I was scared to start out with, for they'd throw their ears cord at me. They was pretty nice about it. I never did get hit.
That's what I didn't like when I was a kid picking with my dad. He would pick it and he'd throw it at the bang board instead of tossing it. And boy, every once in a while you get an ear alongside your head.
I thought the horses were trained so you didn't have to drive the wagon. That they
Well,
just-
then you did, if you was picking yourself, you could talk to the horses and they'd get up and they'd stop and everything for you. But there you had to have somebody in the wagon driving, 'cause they didn't turn the horses in the wagon loose with the prisoners.
Yeah, when you were picking by yourself, if it was a cold day, you'd have trouble getting the horses to go slow enough.
Yeah,
And on a hot day, you had to keep yelling at them to keep them going.
I run into that. I picked quite a little hand corn, so I know it.
There was a couple of winters, we dried out here, and I went down to the eastern part of the state and picked corn.
I went out with my dad when I was just a little girl, about 7 or 8, and so I can remember that. You know, it was fun. I thought it was work to him, I suppose, but I enjoyed it then. I got to throw the corn up there in the wagon and everything.
I never picked much corn by hand. I did pick a little. I know how it's done. I still got the shucking hooks.
I don't think I've even got a shucking hook anymore.
I've got 3 or 4 of them. I got Dad's shucking hook and a couple others.
Well, I know there was a bunch of them down there on the home place, but what happened to them, I don't know.
I got mine in one of them drawers of the old refrigerator.
Wasn't the hook in the palm?
Yep.
I lost mine in the fire. I had my dad's and brothers and mine, and when my garage burnt, I lost all that antique stuff.
I keep thinking I'm gonna get one of them out sometime and go on one of these husking bees. You know, they have them, the state husking bee every fall.
They had one that just Saturday
Was
down,
it this Saturday?
yeah, I think of York or Columbus down there someplace.
Down there, Norma, they had, Cozad one year they had it.
I went up to that one.
3, 4 years ago.
A couple of years ago, our grandkids were down and they were really bored, you know. They just wanted something to do, and they got tired of everything. So Wren's found some 5-gallon buckets, and he said we were going to go out and pick corn out of the fields. And then he has one of those hand corn shellers, you know. So we took him out and with my son and their dad, you know. And so they picked up quite a bit of corn, didn't they?
Yep.
So now then Rich said he tells them that if they don't learn all their stuff in school, that they'll have to go back to picking corn like that to make enough money to live on. So that's an incentive to get busy and study.
Yep.
But that was a fun day.
Yep.
Kept them busy for that day anyway.
Some fellas, though, they'd pick corn, it just seemed like easy for them.
Yeah.
By golly, I had to work to pick corn.
Some of them guys, you know, they could pick 100 bushel every day, and easy, and not have a ribbon on it. You know,
Yeah.
just do a beautiful job picking. I wasn't that way.
I picked for a guy down there in eastern Nebraska. And when I went down there, his wife said, well, didn't want to leave too many shucks on. She said, we used to. just let the ear slide out through your hand and even pull the silks off that way. I thought, my God, you're expecting a little more than you're gonna get.
Because I picked up the trash. Oh. Bathroom's full of trash.
Some of that old corn was hard to pick.
Huh?
Some of that corn was hard to pick.
Oh, yes.
It broke hard.
Dad used to have that calico corn. And that darn stuff had a mean shank on it.
Just about had to break it over your knee.
Yeah.
That open pollinator was a big heavy shank too.
Oh, yeah. Well, calico corn, it was open pollinated.
Yeah.
When the hybrid first came out. Well, after I came back from the service, I picked one winter here south of Arapahoe. And for some reason, there were 6 rows up through that field that really picked hard. And I was just doing fine, you know, when I hit one of them rows. And I thought, my God, if the rest of the field's like this. But it was just 6 rows in there. Evidently it was just a different breed of corn.
Yeah. When you was over there overseas, they probably didn't have any crops growing, did they?
Well, in Ireland, it was, and in Algeria. Heck, we'd go out in wheat fields. Wheat was up here this tall, and God had great long heads on it. I know on Easter Sunday we went going down through a wheat field, and I thought, gosh, this is really peaceful. And about that time, the ground began erupting around us, and I realized we were at war yet.
How many years was you in?
A little over 4 years. You see, I was in almost a year before we got into war.
You guys want coffee and cookies?
Are you through?
Did he get you done?
I don't know. I'm waiting for him to come up with a lot more.
Well, you can turn it back on if he does.
Okay, I can do that.
I
He'll
figured,
get to drinking coffee and then he'll tell you some stories.